Have you ever felt the energy between you and your twin flame suddenly change? For months, maybe years, you may have been the one reaching out, waiting, hoping, and trying to understand why someone who clearly felt the connection could still run from it. You carried the emotions, the questions, and the pain of not knowing whether they would ever face the truth. Then something shifts. You still love them, but you no longer feel the same urgency. You care, but you are calmer. You are no longer chasing the way you once did. And strangely, the one who used to run may begin slowing down, looking back, remembering you, and feeling your absence more deeply than before. In today's video, we will explore the runner and chaser switch, one of the most powerful turning points on the twin flame journey. This shift is not about games, silence, revenge, or pretending not to care. It is a soul-level transformation. The chaser begins returning to themselves, while the runner begins feeling what they have avoided. Most people do not recognize it at first. The chaser may think they are tired or moving on. The runner may think they are just nostalgic or confused. But beneath the surface, the old pattern is breaking, and the connection is evolving. By the end of this video, you will understand why this shift happens, what it means spiritually, and how to recognize the signs without fear. You will see that your calmness does not mean the love is gone. It may mean you are finally reclaiming yourself. You will also understand that the runner's silence does not always mean nothing is happening. Sometimes, the deepest awakening begins quietly, beneath the surface. So if you have felt the energy changing, stay with me until the end, because this may be the moment the connection begins to rebalance, reverse, and reveal the truth both souls were meant to face. Number 1. The chaser goes quiet. The first major sign that the runner and chaser dynamic is beginning to switch is that the chaser becomes quiet. But this quietness is not weakness. It is not defeat. It does not mean the chaser has stopped loving, stopped caring, or stopped believing in the sacredness of the connection. It means something much deeper has happened. The chaser has grown. For a long time, the chaser may have lived with their heart constantly reaching toward the runner. Their emotions may have risen and fallen depending on whether the runner texted, disappeared, came closer, pulled away, opened up, or shut down again. Their peace may have depended on the runner's behavior. Their hope may have depended on the runner's communication. Their sense of worth may have quietly become tied to whether the runner chose them, recognized them, or finally admitted what the connection truly was. But after enough pain, reflection, surrender, healing, and soul-searching, the chaser begins to change. Something inside them becomes tired of abandoning themselves just to keep holding the connection together. They begin stepping into a new version of themselves, a version that still loves deeply, but no longer loves from panic. A version that still honors the bond, but no longer makes the bond the only reason to breathe, live, or feel whole. The love remains, but it becomes calmer. The connection remains sacred, but it is no longer wrapped in desperation. The chaser begins to remember who they are outside of waiting, outside of longing, outside of constantly wondering what the runner is thinking or feeling. They start returning to their own life. They build their own joy again. They create their own rhythm. They reconnect with their purpose, their body, their friendships, their spiritual path, and their inner stability. And this is where the energy begins to shift in a powerful way. The runner can feel it almost immediately, even if they cannot explain it. They were used to feeling the chaser's energy reaching for them. They were used to sensing that constant emotional presence in the background, that warmth, patience, availability, and invisible thread always pulling toward them. But when the chaser becomes whole within themselves, that reaching stops. The energy becomes quieter, the pull becomes cleaner. The connection no longer feels like pressure, expectation, or emotional pursuit. And for the runner, that silence can feel like a sudden wake-up call. This is not manipulation. This is not a tactic. This is not the chaser pretending to be unavailable so the runner will come back. This is the chaser genuinely stepping into their own life. And that kind of wholeness becomes magnetic. Years of chasing could not force the runner into readiness. Years of explaining, proving, waiting, and reaching could not make them awaken before their soul was ready. But when the chaser stops chasing and returns to themselves, an energetic space opens, and in that space, the runner is often forced to turn inward. Because you cannot force someone to awaken. You cannot drag someone into emotional maturity. You cannot make someone face a connection they are still afraid to understand. But you can outgrow the need to keep trying. And very often, that is the sacred moment when the switch begins. And if this message is speaking to something deep inside you, take a moment to really feel it. Maybe you have been the one chasing, waiting, hoping, and trying to understand why the connection felt so powerful yet so painful. Maybe you are beginning to recognize that your silence is not the end of love, but the beginning of your own healing. So before we move into the next sign, give this video a like if this resonates with your journey, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you felt yourself becoming quieter, stronger, and more grounded within? Or simply type, "I return to myself with love," as an affirmation that you are no longer abandoning your own soul for anyone's awakening. Number 2. The runner feels the absence. The second major sign of the runner and chaser switch is that the runner begins to feel the chaser's absence in a way they have never felt before. This is not the same as simply missing someone after a disagreement, a breakup, or a period of silence. In a twin flame connection, absence is often felt far deeper than the mind can explain, because the bond is not only emotional, it is energetic, spiritual, and soul level. Even when there is distance, silence, separation, or no outward communication, an invisible thread still exists between twin flames. For a long time, the runner may have been used to receiving the chaser's energy. They may not have admitted it, they may not have valued it openly, and they may even have acted as if they did not need it. But on an energetic level, they could still feel that love, that attention, that longing, that emotional focus moving toward them. So when the chaser finally stops chasing, stops reaching, stops waiting with desperate energy, and begins pulling their power back into themselves, the runner feels the shift. Suddenly, there is an empty space where that energy used to be. At first, the runner may not understand what is happening. They may feel restless without knowing why. They may feel distracted, unsettled, emotionally unsatisfied, or strangely disconnected from the life they once used as an escape. They may begin thinking about the chaser at unexpected moments, hearing their name, remembering conversations, seeing reminders, or dreaming about them in ways that feel too vivid to ignore. Memories they tried to bury may begin rising to the surface. Feelings they tried to dismiss may begin pressing on their heart. And the distractions that once helped them avoid the connection may no longer work the same way. The people they used to hide behind may feel empty. The habits they used to depend on may feel dull. The routines that once made them feel in control may suddenly feel meaningless. This is not punishment. This is the soul calling them inward. The runner is being guided to face what they have been avoiding, not just about the chaser, but about themselves. They may not immediately say, "I miss my twin flame." They may not even have the language to understand the depth of what they are feeling. Instead, they may simply sense that something important is missing from their life. They may feel that their outer world no longer satisfies them, no matter how busy, distracted, or surrounded they try to be. A quiet discomfort begins to follow them, and no amount of running seems to silence it completely. This phase can feel deeply uncomfortable for the runner, but it is also necessary because this is the moment when running no longer feels like freedom. It begins to feel like avoidance. The universe starts creating the conditions for the runner to slow down, look within, and recognize the truth they have been escaping. Not because they are being forced against their will, but because the old reasons for running no longer feel strong enough to keep them away from themselves. And when the runner finally feels the absence of the chaser, they begin to understand that what they were running from was never just another person. They were running from a mirror, a truth, and a sacred connection that continued to live inside them all along. Number 3. Old coping mechanisms stop working. Another powerful sign of the runner and chaser switch is that both people begin to realize that the old ways they used to cope with the connection no longer bring the same relief. This part of the process is often overlooked, but it is deeply important because it shows that the energy of the connection is no longer allowing either person to remain in the same unconscious patterns. For a long time, the chaser's way of coping may have been to love from a distance while quietly hoping, waiting, analyzing, and searching for signs that something was about to change. They may have watched for small shifts in the runner's behavior, replayed old conversations in their mind, checked social media for hidden meaning, or looked for spiritual confirmations that the connection was still alive. These behaviors may have once brought a temporary sense of comfort because they gave the chaser the feeling that they still had some connection, some control, or some proof to hold on to. But when the switch begins, that old strategy starts to feel heavy. The chaser may notice that obsessive journaling, overthinking, checking, waiting, and searching no longer soothe the anxiety in the same way. Instead of bringing peace, these habits may begin to feel exhausting. Instead of creating hope, they may start exposing how much energy has been spent trying to control something that was never meant to be controlled. The love may still be there. The soul bond may still feel sacred. But the desperate hunger to manage, monitor, or force the outcome begins losing its power. At the same time, the runner experiences a similar collapse, only from the opposite side. For a long time, the runner may have coped by staying busy, emotionally detached, unavailable, or distant enough to avoid being fully touched by the depth of the connection. They may have convinced themselves that distance meant freedom, that silence meant control, and that distraction meant safety. But when the switch begins, those defenses no longer protect them in the same way. The emotional distance that once felt safe may begin to feel lonely. The freedom they thought they were protecting may begin to feel empty. The people, routines, habits, or distractions they used to hide behind may suddenly feel heavy, dull, or meaningless. What once felt like independence may begin to reveal itself as emotional avoidance. This happens because twin flames often operate through the same energetic blueprint. Even when they appear to be moving in opposite directions, their souls are still learning through one shared field. So when growth reaches a certain point, the old structures that kept both people stuck begin breaking down at the same time. The chaser can no longer chase in the old way. The runner can no longer run in the old way. Both souls are being guided toward a more honest way of living, feeling, loving, and facing themselves. This friction is not random. It is a signal from the soul. When the things that once worked suddenly stop working, it means the old pattern has completed its purpose. The soul is asking for something more mature, more conscious, and more aligned. It is asking the chaser to release control. It is asking the runner to release avoidance. And it is asking both people to step into a new level of truth, where love is no longer used as a place to hide, chase, or escape, but as a mirror that calls both souls back to themselves. Imagine a chaser who used to wake up every morning and immediately check the runner's social media, looking for one small sign that they were still thinking about the connection. A song, a quote, a photo, a change in mood, anything that could calm the fear for a few hours. For a while, this pattern may have felt comforting because it gave the chaser something to hold on to. But one day, the same habit no longer brings peace. Instead, it feels draining. The chaser realizes they are tired of searching for love outside of themselves, tired of measuring their worth through someone else's silence, and tired of giving their entire emotional world to a person who is not fully present. At the same time, the runner may be doing the opposite. They may be filling their schedule, spending time with other people, working late, going out, distracting themselves, and convincing themselves that they are free. But suddenly, the noise does not feel exciting anymore. The conversations feel shallow. The distractions feel empty. The distance they once called peace begins to feel like loneliness. This is when both souls begin to understand the same lesson from opposite sides. The chaser learns that chasing is not love, it is fear trying to control love. The runner learns that running is not freedom, it is fear trying to avoid love. And when both old patterns stop working, the connection enters a sacred turning point, because the soul is no longer allowing either person to survive through avoidance, obsession, or illusion. It is guiding both of them toward truth, self-respect, emotional maturity, and a deeper kind of love that can no longer be built on fear. Number 4. The runner begins to reach. One of the clearest external signs that the runner and chaser dynamic is beginning to switch is that the runner starts reaching out first. At the beginning, This may not look dramatic. It may not come as a long confession, an emotional apology, or a clear declaration of love. It may appear in very small ways. They may like one of your posts, send a short message, ask how you are doing, react to something you shared, or make a simple gesture that seems casual on the surface. But energetically, this movement is not small. For someone who once created distance, avoided vulnerability, and protected themselves by pulling away, any movement toward the connection carries deep meaning. It shows that something inside them has begun to shift. The wall they built around their heart may not have completely fallen, but it has softened. The fear that once made them run may still exist, but it no longer has the same power over them. The runner may not come forward with full clarity right away. They may not be ready to explain their emotions, admit the depth of the bond, or speak openly about everything they have felt during separation. They may not suddenly become healed, mature, available, and consistent overnight, but what matters is the direction of their energy. Instead of only moving away, they are now beginning to move closer. This small movement matters because it reveals that the absence they have been feeling has become too strong to ignore. The silence no longer feels peaceful. The distance no longer feels safe in the same way it once did. Somewhere within them, whether consciously or unconsciously, inner work has taken place. Enough space has opened inside their heart for them to desire closeness instead of only fearing it. And this is also connected to the chaser's transformation. When the chaser stops chasing from fear, panic, and emotional desperation, the runner can feel the difference. The energetic pressure changes. The connection no longer feels like something trying to force them into surrender. Instead, the chaser begins to feel calmer, fuller, more grounded, and more whole within themselves. This creates a different emotional atmosphere, one where the runner may finally feel safer to approach. For the chaser, this moment can awaken many emotions at once. There may be excitement, disbelief, hope, caution, fear, tenderness, and even grief. All of these feelings are valid. The chaser has also changed. They are no longer the same person who waited anxiously for every message, every sign, or every small movement from the runner. They have grown through the silence. They have found more of themselves. So, when the runner begins to reach, it is important, but it is not the only thing that matters. The chaser now has the right to decide how they want to receive that energy. They do not have to return to old patterns. They do not have to abandon their peace just because the runner has appeared again. The runner's effort to reach out may be a sacred sign of movement, but the chaser's response must come from self-respect, inner strength, and emotional clarity, not from the old wound of desperation. Number 5. Stillness replaces urgency. One of the deepest signs that the runner and chaser dynamic is beginning to switch is the quiet stillness that starts replacing urgency inside the chaser. This shift may not be obvious to the outside world. Other people may not notice it. The runner may not fully understand it at first, but the chaser can feel it within themselves. Something that once felt restless begins to soften. The inner storm begins to settle. The emotional need to constantly check, question, wonder, and search for signs slowly begins to lose its power. The anxious monitoring becomes quieter. The constant wondering begins to fade. The need to know what the runner is thinking, feeling, doing, choosing, or planning no longer controls the chaser in the same way. Instead of waking up with urgency in the heart, the chaser begins to feel more present within their own life. They begin returning to themselves. This peace is not numbness. It is not emotional shutdown. It is not pretending not to care. It is not the cold silence of someone who has given up on love. This stillness is something much more sacred. It is the genuine ability to remain in the present moment without needing the future to happen in one specific way in order to feel safe. The chaser begins to hold the love without being ruled by it. They can still feel the bond. They can still honor the connection. They can still carry tenderness in their heart. But the love no longer pulls them out of themselves. It no longer forces them into panic, chasing, overthinking, or emotional exhaustion. This is a major healing milestone because the obsessive quality of the connection was never only about love. Beneath the longing, there were often old wounds being activated. Fear of abandonment, fear of not being chosen, fear of being forgotten, fear of loss, fear of not being enough. The runner's distance may have touched places inside the chaser that were already wounded long before this connection began. But as those wounds begin to heal, the connection starts to feel different. The love remains, but the panic fades. The bond remains, but the need to control it softens. The soul still recognizes the connection, but the nervous system no longer treats separation as a threat to survival. Spiritually, this stillness is extremely powerful. It changes the entire energetic field between the two souls. The runner, who may have been running because the connection felt too intense or overwhelming, now begins to experience a different frequency from the chaser. They feel steadiness instead of urgency, groundedness instead of need, presence instead of emotional pressure. And this is what makes the stillness so transformative. It becomes an invitation rather than a demand. It creates space instead of force. It allows the runner to feel the connection without immediately feeling swallowed by it. When the chaser becomes still, they are no longer chasing love from fear. They are standing in love from wholeness. And that shift changes everything, because now the runner is no longer being pulled by desperation. They are being invited by peace. Number 6. Both begin to live differently. The runner and chaser switch does not only change the energy between two people, it also changes the way each person begins to live their own life. This is one of the most important signs that the shift is real. The transformation is no longer happening only in silence, dreams, emotions, or energetic longing. It begins showing up in daily choices, personal priorities, inner values, and the way each person relates to themselves. For the chaser, the change often begins with a return to their own life. Instead of placing all their emotional focus on the runner, they begin investing more deeply in their own path. They may feel called to focus on their purpose, passions, creativity, friendships, healing, spiritual growth, career goals, health, peace, or personal dreams that were once neglected while the connection consumed so much of their emotional energy. And this is not a performance. The chaser is not pretending to be happy just so the runner will notice. They are not trying to look healed in order to create a reaction. They are genuinely beginning to build a life that feels meaningful, nourishing, and aligned with who they are becoming. This is one of the strongest signs of real growth. The chaser is no longer waiting for the connection to be resolved before allowing themselves to live. They are no longer putting their joy, purpose, or future on hold until the runner returns. They are living now. They are choosing themselves now. They are discovering that love can remain in the heart without becoming the center of their entire identity. At the same time, the runner may also begin to change. They may feel drawn toward greater emotional depth, even if they do not fully understand why. The distractions that once felt satisfying may start feeling empty. Temporary comforts may lose their power. Surface-level relationships may no longer be enough. The runner may begin asking deeper questions about life, love, truth, and their own inner world. They may start wondering what they truly want. They may question who they really are beneath the image they have shown the world. They may begin to ask why this connection still lives inside them after everything that has happened, why they still feel the bond, why they still remember, and why distance has not erased what the soul continues to recognize. Both of these shifts are signs of alignment. The twin flame journey is not only about two people coming together in the physical world, it is about both people becoming the versions of themselves who are capable of holding the connection with maturity, presence, honesty, and emotional strength. The old dynamic of one chasing and one running cannot survive when both people begin growing into themselves. The chaser no longer needs to abandon their own life to prove love. The runner no longer feels fulfilled by escaping the truth. The switch happens when the old roles no longer match who they are becoming. This is why the journey is much bigger than romance. It is about transformation. It is about self-recognition. It is about healing the parts of the self that once confused love with fear, attachment, control, avoidance, or loss. It is about becoming whole enough to love without disappearing into someone else. When both people begin showing up differently in their own lives, they become mirrors of growth for one another. They prove that change is possible. They prove that healing matters. They prove that the connection was never meant to trap them in pain, obsession, or waiting. It was meant to awaken them, It was meant to return them to themselves. It was meant to guide them toward a life where love does not weaken them, but expands them into more of who they truly are. And if you have made it this far, take a moment to truly reflect on where you are in this journey. Are you still waiting for the other person to change? Or have you begun to notice that the deepest change is happening within you? Maybe you are the chaser who is finally learning to live again. Maybe you are the runner who is beginning to feel the truth you once tried to avoid. Or maybe you are standing somewhere in between, feeling the old version of yourself slowly falling away. Wherever you are, your story matters. Share your experience in the comments, because someone else may need to hear that they are not alone. And if this message speaks to your soul, simply type, "I am becoming whole enough to love without losing myself." Let this be your affirmation that you are no longer moving from fear, but from healing, truth, and divine alignment. Number 7. The connection becomes a choice. The most spiritually significant sign of the runner and chaser switch is that the connection no longer feels like something driven by compulsion. It begins to feel like a conscious choice. For the chaser, this is a profound inner transformation. Love no longer feels like an open wound that must be healed by the runner's attention, presence, or response. Instead, love becomes something sacred, something they can hold with open hands rather than clenched fists. The connection is still precious. It still matters deeply. It still carries meaning in the soul. But it is no longer the only reason they feel hopeful, alive, or emotionally attached to the future. The chaser begins to discover a new kind of love. They can love without clinging. They can care without collapsing. They can believe in the connection without abandoning themselves in the process. This is not a loss of love. It is the purification of love. It is love becoming calmer, wiser, and more grounded. For the runner, the shift is just as powerful. The connection begins to feel less like a threat and more like an invitation. What once felt overwhelming may now begin to feel meaningful. What once felt like pressure may start to feel like truth. What once felt like a loss of freedom may slowly reveal itself as a doorway into deeper honesty, intimacy, and spiritual awakening. The runner may begin to understand that real love does not destroy freedom. It does not imprison the soul. It does not demand control. True love simply asks for honesty. It asks for courage. It asks for presence. And when the runner becomes more willing to face themselves, they may realize that the connection was never trying to take something away from them. It was trying to awaken something real within them. At this stage, the compulsive energy on both sides begins to soften. The chaser no longer feels the urgent need to reach, prove, explain, or hold on. The runner no longer feels the automatic need to escape, deny, avoid, or retreat. The old dance begins to lose its power. What remains is something more grounded, more mature, and more authentic. This is the movement from fear into love. The running and chasing were never proof that one person was right and the other was wrong. They were both responses to deep inner fears. The chaser often feared abandonment, silence, rejection, and not being chosen. The runner often feared vulnerability, intimacy, emotional exposure, and being overwhelmed by the depth of the bond. But when both souls face enough of these fears, the old pattern begins to dissolve. The connection can finally be chosen consciously, not because either person feels trapped, not because either person believes they cannot survive without the other, but because both people can stand in their own truth and say, "I see you, I recognize this, and I am here because I choose to be." That is the true meaning of the switch. It is not about control. It is not about winning. It is not about one person chasing and the other finally surrendering. It is about two souls becoming free enough, healed enough, and honest enough to choose love without fear. The runner and chaser switch is not simply about who reaches out first, who becomes quiet, or who suddenly begins feeling the connection more deeply. It is much more sacred than that. It is a sign that the energy between two souls is changing because something within each person has begun to transform. When the chaser stops chasing, it does not mean the love has disappeared. It means the love has matured. It means they are no longer abandoning themselves for the connection. They are learning how to hold love with open hands, how to trust without forcing, and how to honor the bond without losing their own peace. And when the runner begins to feel the absence, the silence, or the emotional pull they once tried to escape, it does not mean they are being punished. It means the truth is rising within them. The distractions are losing power. The old walls are becoming too heavy to carry. The soul is beginning to speak louder than fear. This is why the switch can feel so powerful. It reveals that the journey is still alive. The energy is still moving. The connection is still teaching, stretching, awakening, and guiding both people toward deeper truth. So if you are experiencing this shift right now, do not rush it. Do not panic. Do not turn it into another reason to chase, control, or demand answers before the soul is ready. Trust the process, but also keep returning to yourself. Keep healing the parts of you that feared abandonment. Keep choosing your own growth. Keep becoming the version of yourself who can love deeply without losing balance. The twin flame journey does not reward obsession. It rewards courage. It rewards honesty. It rewards surrender. It rewards those who are willing to look within, heal what is wounded, and trust that what is meant for the soul cannot be destroyed by distance, silence, fear, or time. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not being forgotten by the universe. You are being transformed. And whether the next step is silence, communication, deeper healing, reunion, or surrender, trust that the journey is still moving both of you toward what is real. So before you leave, I want you to pause for a moment and honor how far you have already come. If this message touched your heart, leave a comment below saying, "The journey is still moving, and I am still becoming." Let that be your affirmation today. Let it remind your soul that even when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, something sacred can still be unfolding within. And if this video brought you clarity, comfort, or confirmation, please like this video, share it with someone who may need this message, and subscribe to Spiritual Universe for more guidance on your spiritual journey. You have got this. Both of you do. And the path is still guiding you home.